Perhaps one of the most iconic characters in all of video games is the version of Link known as the Hero of Time. Iconic, yes, for a legacy of shaping 3D gaming. Iconic, yes, also as the linchpin of the more controversial aspects of the series' grander narrative. But while he shares the stage with other pioneering characters of 3D gaming and other iterations within his own franchise, what makes the Hero of Time a uniquely iconic hero? Link's story, spanning the duology of Ocarina of Time and its sequel Majora's Mask, forms the two quintessential molds that create this unique hero. So let's investigate Link's trials and triumphs within Hyrule and Termina. As we go along, and as should be done with all good fantasy, we'll apply it to our real world, to other heroic and tragic myths, to the dreamland of Jungian psychology, the horrors of the Holocaust, the absurdism of everyday life, and more. All of this will not only help us to understand the struggles and sacrifices of the Hero of Time, but to understand what it means to face suffering in our own lives, to confront demons, shoulder the burden of destiny, and discover what it means to be a hero. Join me on this hero's journey by subscribing, and let's start by answering a question that is perhaps a little more troublesome than initially anticipated. If I ask you what a hero is, the answers would be as varied as the heroes themselves. Open a dictionary and you'll find a hero is a person who is admired or idealized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. An ancient hero may have done these things for glory, honor, fame, or wealth, while our more modern conceptions perform great deeds and selfless acts for the common good. In the book The 7 Basic Plots by Christopher Booker, a hero is described as having 4 qualities: feeling, order, strength, and understanding. Ask Joseph Campbell, the progenitor of the hero's journey, the structure on which many Zelda stories are based, and he'd say a hero is someone who has given his or her life to something bigger than oneself. A Buddhist would say one who accepts that life is suffering and follows the Eightfold Path. A Christian, one who takes up their cross and bears it. The ancient Greeks would say Hercules. 20th century philosopher Albert Camus would say Sisyphus. Regardless of specifics, common across all these definitions, we find a hero embodies the familiar qualities of courage, wisdom, and power, but also responsibility, suffering, and sacrifice. Let's now trace the Hero of Time's journey to see how Link embodies all of these qualities to not only restore Hyrule and Termina, but also to restore the often overlooked half of heroism: himself. Ocarina of Time begins with a dream, a portent of dark things to come. We learn immediately Link is already an outcast, the boy without a fairy. Yet Kokiri Forest is a neverland, replete with its own Peter Pans. It is the insulated, protected world full of innocence where children never have to grow up. The word paradise, after all, means walled garden. But its guardian dies, and this illusion of innocence, only after Link receives the fairy that makes him part of the group, comes shattering down, and he must leave behind those who can't grow up. Link learns the world is much wider, meets stranger creatures, discovers the princess, and confronts evil from the safety of the inner courtyard. Link and Zelda, seeing their prophetic dreams come to fruition in waking life, plot to use the spiritual stones and Ocarina of Time to enter the sacred realm, recover the Triforce, and defeat the evil Ganondorf, firmly and officially affixing the anchor of destiny, childishly, onto Link's shoulders. Link's collecting of the spiritual stones mirrors adolescence. Safety and friendship found in the ever-providing forest, brutish masculine brotherhood found in fire and stone, young love found in the waters of life. And so the plan has Link pull the legendary blade, but his naivety is thwarted. First physically by powers beyond him, second by a mind clever enough to fool him and Zelda both. And so the first toll is due, and Link is sealed in the sacred realm for 7 years. Within the Chamber of Sages, Rauru has the gall to tell Link not to be alarmed at the changes he's undergone, and casually adds, "You're big now, you've grown up." As if merely maturing physically is enough to pull the mind along, let alone a child's mind slumbering for 7 years. Many cultures have coming-of-age traditions meant to initiate women and men into broader society by casting off girlhood or boyhood through rites of passage. Rites of passage not only mark this stage of life, but more importantly, impart meaning to powerful experiences and support a society's values, providing structure and identity. These major rites of passage generally follow 3 stages: separation, where individuals leave the comfort of their place, sometimes very suddenly, like Link leaving Kokiri Forest after the death of the Deku Tree; transition, where people lose their identities only to have them replaced with new ones that will emerge after the ritual; and incorporation, where participants are reunited with their community and their new identities are established. The lack of such rituals can lead to feelings of disconnection from self and others, anxiety, and even existential crisis. When Link pulls the Master Sword, there is no ritual, only a twist of fate. In a short span, Link experiences a whirlwind of identity crises. First, the boy without a fairy gets a fairy companion, establishing him as part of the Kokiri and the forest, which he has to leave almost immediately after, something the Kokiri never do. He becomes a sworn brother and a fiancé, responsibilities at this young age he's not equipped to fully understand, only to then physically mature, discovering his role as the prophesied hero of time. The mantle of adulthood is thrust upon him immediately and unexpectedly as a replacement for his adolescent identity, which never had the opportunity to be fully experienced, let alone grown out of, the ramifications of which Link can't properly grapple with, thanks to the urgency and hopelessness of the moment, shirking the psychological in order to meet the fate of here and now. After returning to the Temple of Time, Link meets Sheik, who relays the legend of the temples passed down by the Sheikah, that the hero of time, together with the sages, will seal evil and return peace to Hyrule. However, even after all this, what's interesting is Sheik's phrasing. If you believe the legend, you have no choice. And again, but if you believe what I am saying. The hero of time is not choiceless in this matter. His act of faith, in light of all he's just gone through, is his choice, and the first inclination of a deep-seated heroism, but also a precursor to tragedies of which he is just beginning to experience. As he leaves the Temple of Time, it is clear that the responsibilities of adulthood, of destiny, without the appropriate rites of passage, are his cross to bear. His incorporation back into the world, then, is also deeply distorted, much like the world itself. The first 2 people he meets as an adult are strangers. The world he knows is gone, and the people he knows have sacrificed friendship, brotherhood, and love for duty, nobility for the crueler aspects of security, and lonesome thievery for vengeance. In the midst of all this, Link's identity is further shattered. He learns he is not Kokiri, but Hylian, the goddess's chosen people. Even given all of this personal chaos, Link accepts the moniker of Hero of Time, bears this burden, shows tremendous courage, conquers Ganondorf's curses, awakens the sages, and eventually thwarts Ganon himself, only to have Zelda, in a bout of guilt, send him to regain his lost time, home, where he is supposed to be, the way he is supposed to be. But what way is that supposed to be? After all he's just been through, he is no longer the physical adult of Hyrule 7 years in the future, but no longer the child of Hyrule's past. By the end of Ocarina of Time, Link has essentially sacrificed his childhood to save Hyrule from Ganondorf's treachery, redeeming his and Zelda's childhood folly, but trading experience for a destiny that even the Sacred Blade did not think a child was ready for. And though with great wisdom, strength, and courage he is still able to overcome these things, for all intents and purposes, where once he was a child in an adult's body, he is now a hero in a child's body. This shattered identity is the unresolved burden of Ocarina of Time, but it's only half the story. When he returns to his childhood time and places the Master Sword back in its pedestal, Navi ascends to the high window, and when Link returns to Zelda in the castle courtyard, Navi is not with him. And so he sets out on a self-appointed quest to find his companion Navi, the all-encompassing symbol of his youth and what he lost to become Hyrule's savior. Because although he has conquered Ganon, he has not faced the trials within himself. Majora's Mask begins in the middle of a quest through a fog-shrouded forest, a more nefarious representation of Link's childhood home, though it's not long before he is ambushed by Skull Kid. In Ocarina of Time, Navi ponders if this is the fate that befalls children who wander into the forest, cursed to be wooden imps for meddling in powers they do not fully understand. However, with his horse and Ocarina stolen, Link, though more adept than he's ever been, must delay his search for his lost friend in order to rectify these more pressing matters. In her essay collection, The Language of the Night, Ursula K. Le Guin describes fantasies, myths, and tales as like dreams. They speak from the unconscious to the unconscious in the language of the unconscious, the language of the night, symbol, and archetype. Though they use words, they work the way music does. They short-circuit verbal reasoning and go straight to the thoughts that lie too deep to utter. Majora's Mask, perhaps more than any other media I've experienced, uses its fantasy setting and themes to capture this symbolic, dreamlike language. Link falls into a blackness-like sleep, and the player is met with a surreal assortment of colorful masks. What lies beneath is a story about restoring the identity of a world and an imp, and reclaiming the identity of a young hero. Once at the bottom of this long fall, Link's identity is further split again when, following a sequence derived from Eiji Aonuma's actual dreams, he is transformed into a Deku Scrub. It's hard to dismiss the parallels between Skull Kid and Link, who, lest we forget, also began by wandering in the forest, and is now cursed to be a wooden creature. But here is also where these parallels begin to diverge, and the Skull Kid becomes a mirror. A warning should Link walk a darker path, perhaps best symbolized once the two are split. Tails' dark light accompanying Skull Kid, and Tattle's white light left behind with Link. Having exited the blurred, twisted hall into Termina's dank underbelly, Deku Link encounters the happy mask salesman. Psychologist Carl Jung coined the term persona, derived from the Latin word referencing theatrical masks worn by actors, to describe the aspects of our personality concerned with the external world, a mediary between our inner selves and acceptable society. It's what differentiates the office's demanding boss from the home's gentle father, when those are both the same person. However, to fully realize one's potential, Jung also makes clear not to confuse the mask with one's true self. The happy mask salesman, someone who deals in personas, instantly recognizes that Link is cursed and strikes a bargain to return him to his former self. In exchange, Link must retrieve the mask now possessed by Skull Kid, who is literally possessed by this dark persona. Upon leaving the clock tower, the sense of dreamlike strangeness is intensified. The familiar yet uncanny faces, the inscrutable mix of emotions on the ever-lingering moon, and the many other references to out-of-place personas. We see another kid in a mask who we later learn is a man-turned-child. We see a man in fairy garb having what I can only assume is an existential crisis. We see a gang of boys running the town's seedy underworld. When the clock strikes 12 and we confront Skull Kid, the effects of being dominated by one's persona are evident in Skull Kid's treatment of his fairy companion, further solidifying him as Link's contrasting reflection. Once time is reverted, the happy mask salesman sheds Link's Deku persona into something separate but tangible, usable, not dominating. With this reemergence of the boy we recognize, Link once again shoulders the burden of responsibility and, having been restored, continues to uphold his end of the bargain. As such, he also helps the people of Termina, proving that a hero does not merely slay demons on a dramatic noble adventure, but reunites lovers, lends a hand, provides small kindnesses. In this way, Link nurtures within himself and within others what psychologist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl called a will to meaning, further symbolized in the masks Link acquires, the primary drive to find purpose in life regardless of pain, guilt, or death. Darker aspects of life, Majora's Mask is not shy in depicting. Frankl developed this idea as a part of his broader psychological therapy, logotherapy, derived from his experiences in a Nazi concentration camp, where he witnessed others capable of resisting and braving even the worst conditions. Though a comparison to a video game falls woefully short of the severity of this harrowing, real-world tragedy, the resilience Link and the other inhabitants show in the face of imminent annihilation is still admirable, that humans alive or virtual are capable of, and of inspiring, great courage. As German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche pithily put it, he who has a why to live can bear with almost any how. But Link's time in Termina is also restricted by a time loop. He must restart the cycle over and over, undoing the progress he's made, losing the bonds he's formed. French philosopher Albert Camus, in his work The Myth of Sisyphus, equated this condition to the drudgery of modern life and what he called the absurd, the tension created by man's search for meaning in an empty and meaningless world. But this does not make life meaningless. Camus points to the myth of Sisyphus, a king eternally punished to push a boulder uphill only for it to roll back down, the meaning being found not in the outcome, but in the act itself. Famously quoted, "The struggle itself towards the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy." But Camus was also unwilling to rely on hope. And so while one must also imagine Link happy, his cycle of boulder pushing in the strange world of Termina transcends absurdism. The breaking of the chains to end the cycle itself is a sacrifice that can uniquely be made by Link, because the hero, as Le Guin says, is the one who sees what is appropriate to be done, because he or she sees the whole, which is greater than evil or good. Their heroism is, in fact, their certainty. They do not act by rules, they simply know the way to go. And so Link undoes progress to make progress, as it were, pushing the stone up the hill but eventually shoving it off the other side. But before he can get to that other side, Link traverses the inverted areas of his childhood. The poison swamp ruled by a dominating father, the frozen mountain with no leader, and the ocean stilled and quieted by lost love. By inhabiting each of these regions' personas, Link interacts with the world differently, while fulfilling the promises of his childhood lost in order to save Hyrule. Overcoming each, he lives no longer as the lost child, the forgotten brother, the unrealized lover, but as a son, a role model, a romantic partner. All of this culminates in the final area, Ikana Canyon, Stone Tower, and the Stone Tower Temple, which mimic Hyrule to the extreme, a civilization of civil war, dead and conquered. It takes a boy rectifying his boyhood to be recognized as a light in that darkness, to quell those age-old feuds, and as he ascends, to shed the parts of himself that no longer serve his person in order to become something more. Having helped everyone and confronted his dark doppelganger, Link again returns to a symbol of his childhood, a green field, children playing in the safety of a large tree. It's here that Link reaches the Hercules stage, both having endured 12 labors, the portion of the hero's journey Joseph Campbell called apotheosis, literally meaning to make a god. This stage represents the highest point of development, symbolized by Link becoming, literally, a fierce deity, a power which in the wrong hands can become distorted and destructive, but in the hands of the fully realized hero, focused and restorative. When the new day dawns, Link, unlike in Ocarina of Time, has not only helped an entire world, he has reunited a lost child with his childhood, and, in a reversal of Ocarina of Time, is able of his own accord to leave his new fairy companion behind. The twin stories of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask trace the path of becoming an adult and becoming the best version of ourselves. Ocarina's story, and by extension its hero, is outward-facing. It says that a hero endures the trials, tribulations, and tragedies of becoming older, contends with the responsibilities of growing up, and the personal toll that instills. Majora's Mask takes these tolls and shifts them inward, commenting that time does not heal anything that continues to be ignored, that a hero is one who looks inside themselves, who accepts the weight of personal insufficiency and tragedy, faces the darkest part of themselves, and emerges as something more capable, more formidable, but also more discerning, gentle, and grateful. The hero of time resonates because his story is both sides of all of us. And the role of such a hero is to remind us of the power we have over ourselves and our own lives. To reflect on the hero of time is to reflect on ourselves as a path ultimately to master ourselves, create our own personal legends, and become the heroes of our own stories. I'll leave you with this quote by Camus. In the midst of winter, I found there was, within me, an invincible summer, and that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me there's something stronger, something better, pushing right back. Thanks for watching.